The silent glance, the stage lights dimmed as the final scene of Ana de Armas's new play faded into silence. The small theater in Los Angeles, barely half full, was quiet for a few seconds longer than it should have been. Then came a few weak claps. Half-hearted, uncertain, more out of politeness than praise. Ana stood frozen on the stage, her chest still rising and falling from the heavy emotions of her final monologue. Her character, a mother who lost her child during a war, had just finished whispering a final goodbye into the night air. It was supposed to be powerful. It was supposed to move people. But the room felt cold. Ana's eyes scanned the crowd. She had trained for months for this role, studied old war letters, read journals from grieving mothers, cried herself to sleep, some nights trying to feel what they felt. She had wanted this performance to matter, but the applause faded quickly, replaced by the rustle of coats and the sound of people getting up from their seats. In the front row, a man in a gray blazer leaned toward his friend and whispered something, then laughed. Ana's heart sank. She couldn't hear what he said, but she could see the smirk. The friend didn't laugh back, just glanced at the stage, then looked away. In the second row, hidden behind a tall man's shoulder, sat Keanu Reeves. He hadn't moved. His hands rested in his lap. His face was still unreadable. He wasn't clapping, but he wasn't leaving either. His eyes were fixed on Ana, as if he was still watching the story unfold, even though the curtain had already fallen. Ana took a quiet breath and stepped back. The curtain closed. Behind it, the other actors shuffled toward her with forced smiles. "Good job," one said, patting her shoulder. Another offered her a bottle of water. No one looked her in the eye. Ana walked to her dressing room in silence. The hallway echoed with voices, some laughing, some indifferent. One of the crew members passed by and said, "Critics are in the house tonight. Hope they're gentle." She tried to smile, but it felt heavy on her lips. Alone in front of the mirror, she sat down and wiped off her makeup. She didn't cry. Not yet. She just stared at herself. The reflection didn't look like a failure, but the silence of the audience still rang in her ears. Outside the theater, a group of bloggers had already started posting. One tweet read, "Ana de Armas tries live theater. Maybe she should stick to Hollywood." Another said, "Emotionally, flat performance from someone who's usually so magnetic on screen," Ana's agent called. She didn't answer. She walked home that night instead of calling a car. The air was cool and the streets were mostly quiet. A couple walked past her, laughing. A man on a bike rode by, headphones on. No one recognized her. Not that night. Not after that performance. The next morning, the reviews were worse than she feared. "A brave attempt, but ultimately uninspired," one paper wrote. Ana de Armas seems lost in the theater world. Her emotions felt rehearsed, not lived. Ana sat on her apartment floor surrounded by printouts. She had highlighted the good parts. There were only 2 small phrases: strong stage presence and clear dedication. The rest was red ink, and it burned in her chest. She didn't tell anyone how much it hurt. Not even her closest friends. She just posted a photo of a coffee cup on Instagram with the caption, "Grateful for the experience." She lied to the world, and the world believed her. That evening, she received a text from a number she hadn't saved, though she knew it well. "I was there last night. Can we talk?" Keanu stared at the screen for a long time before replying. "Sure." He asked if they could meet for a walk. Just a quiet stroll, nothing heavy. She agreed. They met at a park near sunset. The sky was streaked with orange and purple. Birds flew overhead. Keanu wore a simple hoodie and jeans. He didn't greet her with a hug, just a soft nod. "I watched you last night," he said. She gave a small, bitter smile. "Yeah, I saw you." He stopped walking and turned to her. "Can I ask you something?" Ana hesitated. "Sure." Why did you do it? She blinked. What do you mean? The play. The role. Why did you choose that story? Anna looked away. Because it mattered to me. Because it wasn't about glamour or being seen. It was about grief. Real grief. And I wanted to understand. Honor it. Keanu nodded slowly. Then you did exactly what you came to do. She laughed, a little sharp. Did you hear the crowd? They didn't feel anything. I failed. Keanu tilted his head. No, they failed. They came expecting fireworks. But grief isn't fireworks. It's ashes. It's quiet. It's the space between breaths. You showed them that, and they didn't know how to handle it. Anna felt something shift inside her. A breath she hadn't taken all day suddenly released. She looked at him and his eyes were kind. They weren't trying to cheer her up. They were just true. He asked, "Can I ask one more thing?" She nodded. What would you do if nobody clapped ever? Would you still tell the story? Her throat tightened. She looked down at her hands. After a long silence, she whispered, "Yes." Keanu smiled, soft and proud. Then you're already stronger than the applause. They walked in silence after that, not awkward silence, the kind that lets two people breathe together without needing words. Anna didn't know what would come next, whether she'd be invited to do another play or if this one would haunt her for years. But something in her had changed, not because of the critics, not because of the failure, but because someone had seen her, really seen her, and asked the one question that mattered. And from that moment on, she knew her voice didn't come from the stage. It came from the truth inside her. The dinner table the next morning, Anna woke up before the sun. The apartment was quiet. A thin beam of light came through the window, resting on her bookshelf. She sat on her bed, still in her clothes from last night. There was a strange calm inside her, like the sky after a storm. Not peace exactly, but a kind of stillness that follows pain. She made tea and sat on the floor beside her window. Her phone buzzed again. Another article. Another opinion. She didn't open it. She just stared out at the city, at the way it slowly came alive, not caring who succeeded or failed. Around noon, her phone rang. This time she answered. "Anna, it's Oliver," the voice said. Oliver had directed her in a film 2 years ago. He was honest. Sometimes too honest, but always fair. He didn't waste words. "I saw the play," he said. Anna braced herself. "Okay. Don't read the reviews," he said. "They missed it." She was silent. "But," he added, "I also think you weren't ready for that role." "Not yet." Anna flinched. "That doesn't mean you failed," he continued. "It just means you're still becoming." "Becoming what?" she asked quietly. "A storyteller who doesn't depend on approval," he replied. Anna nodded, even though he couldn't see her. "Thanks for calling." "Any time," he said. "And Anna?" "Yeah? You'll find your rhythm. Just don't give up." After the call, Anna put her phone down. She didn't cry. She just sat with those words, becoming. It felt like something she hadn't given herself permission to be, in progress. Later that day, Keanu texted again. He invited her to dinner at a quiet place outside the city, a small restaurant run by a family who used to be actors themselves. She hesitated. Part of her wanted to hide for days. Another part was curious. Curious why he cared so much. She said, yes, he picked her up in an old truck, the kind that smelled like leather and memory. They didn't speak much during the drive. Soft music played on the radio. Instrumental, gentle. The restaurant was small and warm, with dim lights and soft jazz in the background. The walls were covered with old theater posters. The woman who owned it, Maria, hugged Keanu when they arrived. "He never brings anyone," she whispered to Anna with a smile. "You must be special." Anna smiled politely, unsure how to respond. They sat near the window, where candlelight flickered on their faces. Keanu ordered soup and bread. Anna did the same. For a while, they ate in silence. Then Keanu asked, "Do you remember your first performance?" Anna thought for a moment. "I was 12. School play. I forgot my lines and ran off the stage crying." He smiled. "Mine was worse. I tripped on my own sword in a Shakespeare scene, fell flat on my back." She laughed, the sound surprising even herself. It was the first real laugh since the night of the play. "What made you keep going?" she asked. "Because I wasn't done yet," he said. Anna looked down at her hands. "I'm scared I'll never be good at this. Not like the others." Keanu leaned in slightly. "You're not supposed to be like the others." She looked up. "You have your own voice," he said, "and it's quieter, but it cuts deeper." Anna blinked. His words felt like a mirror she had never dared to look into. He continued, "Some actors shine like fire, others like yours glow like coals, slow, steady, and they last longer." She didn't speak. Her eyes stung, but she didn't let the tears fall. After dinner, Maria brought dessert, homemade flan. She placed it between them with a wink. "For brave hearts only," she said. Anna and Keanu shared it, taking small bites, the sweetness breaking through the heaviness. Before they left, Maria gave Anna a small folded piece of paper. "My mother used to say this before every performance," she said. "I think you need it more than I do now." Anna opened it once they were back in the truck. The note read, "Your story is not in their hands. Tell it anyway." Anna held the paper tightly, as if it were a shield. On the way back, Keanu said, "I have an idea. Something different." "What kind of idea?" she asked. "There's a workshop next weekend. Old theater in the hills. No press, no critics. Just actors who want to feel again. I'll be there. You should come." Anna didn't respond right away. The idea of performing again so soon made her nervous. "Think about it," Keanu said. "It's not about impressing anyone. It's about remembering why you started." When he dropped her off, she thanked him. Not just for the ride, but for showing up when no one else had. As she walked into her apartment, she looked around. The same place that had felt cold yesterday now felt a little softer. She placed Maria's note on her fridge. "Your story is not in their hands." Anna sat at her table and pulled out a notebook. She began to write. Not a script, not a role. Just her thoughts, her fears, her hopes. It was the first time she had written without trying to impress someone, and it felt real. 3 days later, she texted Keanu. "I'm coming to the workshop." His reply came quickly. "Good. Bring your truth. That's all they ask for." The echo in the hills. The road to the workshop was narrow and winding, carved into the hills like a secret path. Anna drove slowly, her hands gripping the wheel tightly. Tall trees lined the road, their shadows dancing across the windshield. She had barely slept the night before. The thought of performing again made her stomach twist. When she arrived, the theater looked nothing like she expected. It was old, made of worn brick and aged wood, sitting quietly at the edge of a hill. The paint was peeling, and ivy crawled up its sides. It felt like the kind of place that held memories in its walls. Not grand memories, quiet ones. She parked her car and stepped out, carrying only a small bag. No makeup, no costumes, just herself. Inside, the theater smelled of dust and time. A few others were already there, 6 people, maybe 7, sitting in a circle on the stage. They looked relaxed, some in sweatpants, others barefoot. There were no cameras, no scripts, no pressure. Just voices murmuring softly. Keanu stood at the edge of the circle. When he saw her, he smiled. Not the kind of smile people give when they're proud of you. The kind they give when they're relieved you didn't give up. "You made it," he said. "I almost turned back," she admitted. "But you didn't," he said. And that's enough. Anna took a seat in the circle. An older woman with silver hair and kind eyes introduced herself as Leah. She was leading the workshop. "We're not here to perform," Leah said. "We're here to listen, to each other, and to ourselves." Anna nodded slowly. "We'll start with silence," Leah said, "because silence is where truth lives." For the next few minutes, no one spoke. They just sat there, breathing. It felt strange at first. Anna wanted to shift, to fidget, to speak, but slowly she sank into the quiet. She could hear her own heartbeat, the wind outside, the creak of the wooden beams above. Then Leah asked, "Who here has failed?" Every hand went up. "Who here has been told they don't belong?" Again, every hand. "Who still showed up anyway?" The hands stayed up. Anna felt something crack open inside her. It was the first time she realized she wasn't alone. Not in her fear, not in her doubt. Everyone here had felt the same. The first exercise was simple. They had to walk across the stage, slowly, while saying something they were afraid to admit. One by one, the others went. A man said he hadn't booked a role in years. A woman admitted she felt invisible in every audition room. Another confessed he didn't know if he even liked acting anymore. Then it was Anna's turn. She stood at the edge of the stage. Her feet felt heavy, her throat dry. She took a breath. "I'm afraid I only got this far because of how I look." The words hung in the air. No one laughed. No one rolled their eyes. They just listened. Anna kept walking. "I'm scared that when people really look at me, they won't find anything deep." She reached the end of the stage and turned. "I want to be more than beautiful. I want to be understood." Her voice trembled. She didn't expect to feel so exposed. But as she returned to the circle, something felt lighter. Keanu was next. He walked across the stage with calm steps. "I'm afraid that no matter how much I do," he said softly, "people will only see the surface." Anna looked at him, surprised, but his face was open, vulnerable. "I'm scared of being loved for the wrong reasons." He sat down again, and no one clapped. Because this wasn't about applause. Throughout the day, they did more exercises. Some involved movement. Others were about telling stories from their past. One involved sitting across from a partner and just making eye contact for 5 minutes. Anna was paired with a man named Dylan. He was tall and quiet, with soft brown eyes. At first, they both giggled awkwardly. But as the minutes passed, the laughter faded. She saw something in his eyes. Fear, hope, kindness. And maybe he saw the same in hers. After the exercise, he whispered, "Thank you." Anna didn't know why, but the words meant a lot. That evening they gathered outside by a fire pit. The stars had come out, and the air was cool. Someone passed around mugs of tea. They sat on logs and blankets, close enough to feel warmth. Leah asked if anyone wanted to share a story that had changed them. Keanu raised his hand. He stood slowly, holding his mug with both hands. "I once worked with a young actor who was terrified of being on stage," he said. "They forgot their lines during a small production. Ran off crying. I found them behind the theater, shaking." Anna realized he was talking about himself. I told them, "You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be present." He looked around at the group. That actor was me. And that night didn't end my story. It started it. Everyone was quiet. Then Leah said, "Thank you, Keanu." Anna felt tears prick her eyes, not from sadness, from recognition. She wasn't broken. She was beginning later that night. As she lay in the small guest room above the theater, she wrote in her notebook again, "They saw me." And they didn't turn away, she smiled. For the first time in weeks, she fell asleep without the weight of doubt pressing on her chest. The critic's return, and a return from the workshop with something she hadn't felt in weeks. Peace. Not confidence, not pride, just quiet peace. The kind that doesn't shout, the kind that stays with you when you're alone. But peace doesn't last forever. A week after the workshop, her agent called. This time, Anna answered. "Anna," he said, "you've been invited to speak at the Actors' Roundtable." Her heart skipped. "What?" "The one sponsored by Actors Daily. Streamed. Online. Big names, big audience. Why me? They want to talk about transition, film actors exploring theater. The fallout. The pressure. You're perfect for it." Anna hesitated. She wasn't sure she wanted to be perfect for something defined by failure. They know about the reviews, Anna. They want the honesty. And you'll be seated with other actors. Some who've been through the same, including Keanu. He said yes, she asked. He was their first call. Anna thought for a moment. She wasn't ready. Not really. But maybe that was the point. "Okay," she said. "I'll do it." The round table was set in a large studio with floor-to-ceiling windows. Cameras were placed all around, but the setting was designed to look casual. A circle of plush chairs, coffee mugs on small tables, soft lighting. Anna arrived early. A stylist offered to touch up her makeup, but she declined. She wore simple clothes, a cream-colored sweater, dark jeans, and flat shoes. She didn't want to look like she was performing. Keanu arrived soon after. He smiled when he saw her. "You okay?" he asked. "Not really," she said honestly. He nodded. "Good. That means you care." Others arrived, established actors from television, independent films, and even Broadway. The host, a sharp woman named Clara, greeted them with warmth but clear focus. As the cameras started rolling, the conversation began lightly. Favorite roles, funny audition stories. Anna stayed quiet at first, listening, watching. Then Clara shifted. The mood. "Let's talk about failure," she said. "About the moments that made you question everything." Anna felt her pulse quicken. Clara turned to her. "Anna, your recent stage performance drew a lot of attention and criticism. How did you process that?" Every eye turned to her. The cameras zoomed in. Anna took a slow breath. "It hurt," she said simply, "because I cared. I gave everything to that role, and I thought that was enough." "And when it wasn't?" Clara pressed. Anna looked down at her hands. "I blamed myself. I thought, maybe I don't belong." "On that stage?" The room was still. Clara nodded. "Many felt you weren't ready. Some said you lacked emotional depth." Anna blinked, surprised by the directness. But before she could respond, Keanu leaned forward. "Can I ask a question?" he said, looking at Clara. "Of course," she replied. He turned to the cameras. "How many critics have ever lost a child in a war?" The silence was sharp. He looked around the room. "How many of them know what it feels like to be a mother who can't say goodbye?" No one answered. Keanu continued. Anna wasn't acting pain. She was honoring it. And if the room was quiet, maybe it's because grief is quiet. And maybe, just maybe, they weren't ready for something real. Anna's eyes filled with tears. Clara looked stunned for a moment. "That's powerful, Keanu. But art is also about response, connection." "I agree," he said. "But sometimes, connection doesn't look like cheers. Sometimes, it looks like stillness, reflection, and discomfort. That doesn't mean the performance failed. It means it reached deeper than expected." Anna swallowed hard. She had never felt more seen. Another actor, Julian, spoke up. "I saw the play. I didn't clap either. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because I couldn't move. It broke something in me. In a good way." Anna turned toward him. "You never said anything. I didn't know how," he admitted. but I should have. The host smiled softly. This is the conversation we need. The round table ended with a quiet applause from the crew. It wasn't for the cameras. It was for what had just happened. After the shoot, Anna stepped outside into the sun. She stood near the trees lining the studio lot. Keanu joined her. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "I didn't," he replied. "I wanted to." "Why?" He looked at her. "Because one truth deserves another." They stood in silence. Then she asked, "Do you think it'll change anything?" Keanu shrugged. "Maybe. Maybe not. But we spoke it. And that matters." As they walked together down the lot, people passed by and nodded at Anna. Not out of pity. Not out of celebrity, but out of respect. One woman stopped her. "Thank you," she said. "You reminded me that it's okay to feel too much." Anna smiled. "Thank you." That evening, clips from the round table began circulating online. Keanu's question, "How many critics have ever lost a child in a war?" was everywhere. The video was trending. People were sharing it with captions like, "This is what standing up looks like," and he said what needed to be said. But more than that, people began to revisit the performance. Some who hadn't seen it went to watch it online. Others, who had watched, it began to speak differently. One review site updated its article with a new paragraph. "Perhaps we were too quick to judge. Perhaps we mistook silence for failure." Anna's inbox filled with messages, not from agents or fans, but from strangers. A woman who lost her brother in combat. A father who hadn't spoken about his grief in years. A nurse who worked in war zones. They all said the same thing. "Thank you for telling that story." Anna didn't reply to every message. She couldn't, but she read them all. Each one felt like a thread pulling her back to herself. She opened her notebook and wrote, "Maybe the quiet ones change the world too." The Spotlight Returns days passed after the roundtable interview, but the effect only grew stronger. Social media didn't just share Keanu's words, they dissected them, praised them, even debated them. And in the middle of it all, Anna's name returned to the headlines, but this time it was different. Bravery behind silence. How Ana de Armas challenged Hollywood's applause addiction. Keanu Reeves defends Ana de Armas and teaches everyone what art really means. These weren't gossip columns. These were thoughtful, serious discussions. Critics who had once dismissed her performance were now calling it a misunderstood masterpiece. And then came the call that changed everything. Her agent's voice shook with excitement. "Anna, I just got off the phone with Claire Barlow." Anna frowned. "Who?" "Claire Barlow, director of Ashes and Wings, Academy Award winning. She wants you for the lead role." Anna stood still. She had to hold onto the back of the chair to stay grounded. "Are you serious?" "Very. She saw your performance, the one everyone mocked. She said it was raw, and that's what she's looking for." Anna felt her heart race. "What's the role?" she asked. Her agent's voice lowered. "A grieving soldier. Returning home after war. Lost her family, her sense of self. It's painful, deep. And Claire says only someone who's walked through fire can do it." Anna didn't answer right away. "Anna," he asked, "this could change your career forever." But Anna wasn't thinking about her career. She was thinking about whether she was ready, really ready, not for the attention, not for the fame, but for the weight of the role. "I need to meet Claire first," she said. "Of course. I'll arrange it." The meeting took place in a quiet rooftop cafe. Claire Barlow was in her 50s with short gray hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. She spoke slowly with meaning behind every word. "I watched your performance, Claire," said. Anna sat across from her, nervous but calm. "It wasn't perfect," Claire continued, "but it was true, and that matters more." Anna nodded, unsure of what to say. Most actors try to perform pain. You let it sit inside you, and it showed. Anna finally spoke. That role broke me a little. Claire smiled. Then you're exactly who I need. They talked for 2 hours. Claire didn't ask about fame or followers. She asked about wounds, real ones, about loss, about love, about silence. At the end of the meeting, Claire stood and said, "You don't need to audition. I've already chosen you." Anna walked away from the meeting feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time, like herself. But with opportunity came pressure. The studio behind Ashes and Wings was big. Not just award-level big, global blockbuster big. They wanted the film to be both deep and marketable. And as the deal began to take shape, Anna's agent called again. "They love you," he said. "But there's one request." Anna felt her chest tighten. "What is it?" "They want you to soften the character. Not too raw, just a little more digestible." Anna froze. "They want the pain to be there," her agent continued, "but with hope, with beauty." "Grief isn't beautiful," Anna said quietly. "I know," he replied. "But they think audiences need that." Anna hung up the phone and sat in silence for a long time. She opened her notebook. Do I tell the truth, or do I perform it? Later that evening, she called Claire, directly. "I need to ask you something," Anna said. "Go ahead," Claire replied. "Are you going to let the studio change the story?" Claire paused. "I hope not." "But if they push?" Anna asked. Claire's voice was soft. "Then we fight, or we walk," Anna breathed out. "Then I'm with you." The next week was full of rehearsals, script readings, emotional research, and deep, honest work. Claire didn't allow surface-level emotions. Every scene was stripped down until it hurt. And Anna gave everything. Keanu visited the set on the 3rd day, not as part of the film, just as a friend. He watched her do a scene where her character read a letter from her son, who had died in battle. Anna's hands trembled. Her voice cracked. She didn't cry. She just read. And in that silence, the room broke. When the scene ended, the crew stood still. No one spoke. Anna looked at Keanu from across the room. He nodded, eyes shining. Afterwards, they walked outside together. "You're not acting anymore," he said. "I know," she replied. "You're telling the story." "And it's not mine," she whispered. "But I feel it anyway." He touched her shoulder gently. "That's how you know it's real." A few days later, trouble arrived. A producer from the studio came to set with new notes. "This scene," he said, pointing at one of the most emotional moments. "It's too heavy. Let's add a little hope here. Maybe a line about healing." Claire said nothing at first. Anna stood beside her. Then Claire looked the producer in the eye and said, "She's not healed. She's surviving. And that's the story." The producer frowned. "Audiences want resolution." Anna spoke up. "Then, they're watching the wrong movie." The room went quiet. The producer looked between them, then sighed. "Fine, but don't blame us if it doesn't sell." He left. Claire turned to Anna. "That was brave." "It was necessary," Anna said. They shot the scene as written. As the filming continued, word began to spread in Hollywood. Ana de Armas wasn't just acting anymore. She was leading, standing, and refusing to turn grief into decoration. Keanu sent her a message late one night. "You didn't just answer my question. You became the answer." Anna read it twice, then smiled. The final day of filming arrived. The crew clapped, not out of habit, out of respect. Real, deep respect. Anna stood in front of the mirror in the dressing room. No makeup, hair undone, just herself. And for the first time in a long time, she whispered to her reflection, "I'm proud of you." Not because of the film, not because of the praise, but because she had stayed true. The stage no one sees, the premiere of Ashes and Wings, was held in a quiet theater, not one of the flashy red carpet ones, but an old, respected venue in downtown Los Angeles. It wasn't a blockbuster launch. There were no loud cameras, no screaming crowds. It was a screening for people who cared about story, not spotlight. Anna arrived alone. Her dress was simple, black, with long sleeves, her hair tied back. She wore no jewelry. She wanted nothing to distract from the story she had helped shape. Keanu was already there, waiting by the entrance. He didn't say anything when he saw her. He just opened his arms, and she walked into the hug like it was home. Inside the theater, the lights dimmed. The room filled with quiet expectation. Then the film began. From the first scene, the silence returned. Not the kind Anna once feared, but the kind she had come to understand. People weren't bored. They were listening. Anna watched her own face on the screen. But it didn't feel like watching herself. It felt like watching a truth she had carried for so long but never fully shared. The audience sat still for the entire 90 minutes. Some leaned forward, others wiped tears silently. Not once did anyone speak. When the credits rolled, no one moved. It was as if they were afraid that standing up would break something sacred. Then slowly, one person stood. Then another. And another. They didn't cheer, they didn't scream, they clapped. Long and steady, like a heartbeat. Deep and honest, Anna remained in her seat for a moment, overwhelmed. Her hands trembled, but this time, it wasn't fear. It was release. Keanu leaned toward her and whispered, "You did it," she whispered back. "We did." After the screening, people came to her, not with praise, but with gratitude. "That story reminded me of my father," one woman said, tears in her eyes. "I haven't thought of him like that in years." "My brother served," a man said quietly. "You showed something we never talk about." "Thank you." Anna didn't have big words. She just held their hands, nodded, listened. Later, as the crowd left and the theater emptied, Keanu and Anna stayed behind. They walked onto the empty stage, where the screen had just faded to black. "Do you remember the night after your play?" Keanu asked. "I remember every second," Anna replied. "If you could go back," he said, "to that night, would you change anything?" Anna looked out at the rows of empty seats. "No," she said. "Not one thing." She turned to him. "Because that night, that silence, led me here." Keanu smiled. They sat on the edge of the stage, their feet dangling. There were no lights on them now, no cameras, no crowd, just two people who had chosen truth over applause. Anna pulled out her notebook, the one she had carried since the workshop. She flipped to the last page and wrote slowly, "I don't need everyone to clap. I just need someone to feel." She tore out the page and handed it to Keanu. "Keep it," she said, "for the next person who forgets." He folded the note carefully and placed it in his coat pocket. "You know," he said, "you've become the question now." She raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "One day," he said, "someone else will fall, be mocked, feel lost. And someone in the room will ask, 'What would Anna do?'" Anna laughed softly. "I hope they do more than I ever could." Keanu looked at her. "They already are. Because you reminded us what this is all about." Anna stood slowly and looked around the quiet theater one last time. "Not performance," she said. "Truth," Keanu added. They walked out into the night. No cameras followed. No headlines waited. But far beyond that small theater, across screens and hearts around the world, the film began to ripple. Not as a blockbuster, but as a mirror, in classrooms, young actors watched and learned that beauty wasn't in the loudest voice, but in the most honest one. In living rooms, families held hands and remembered those they lost. And in quiet corners, people sat in silence. Not because they were unimpressed, but because they had been changed. Anna didn't chase the spotlight after that. She chose roles that mattered. She taught. She listened. She became a voice for those who couldn't speak. And sometimes, when she visited small theaters or watched others stumble through their first performances, she didn't judge. She waited. And when the silence came, she stood up, just like Keanu once had, and asked the one question that changed everything. Why did you do it? And when they answered from the heart, she smiled, because now she knew what it meant to be seen. Not for how she looked, not for how she performed, but for how she told the truth.